I'm John Heilemann.
And I'm Mark Halperin. With all due respect to those on the debate stage last night, once again, really appreciate the shout-outs.
Secretary Clinton, though, with all due respect, let me just,
all due respect.
The exodus from the desert is well underway. The candidates, their surrogates, and the media have started making their way out of Las Vegas after what was a reckoning. Hillary Clinton, for months beset by controversies, handled her four challengers on the debate stage at the win last night, much like Maximus the Gladiator. Confident, swift, and with an unmistakable look in her eye that said, "Are you not entertained?" You can get your fix on Hillary and how she did on our website, where, amongst other pieces, John and I both have our post-debate takes. But, John, tell us now, where does last night leave Clinton in her fight for the Democratic nomination?
Well, she came into this debate, Mark, for all of her troubles. She came in the front runner. She exited a stronger front runner than she was the day before. She pushed Bernie Sanders all over the stage. The other three candidates, I think, made very little impact. She's in a better place than she was. And if she can get through this Benghazi hearing strong and put this email thing behind her, she's going to be in a very good place headed into Iowa and New Hampshire.
I gave her an A. I don't usually give A's on debate performances for anybody. It wasn't flawless, but it was so strong, and particularly compared to the other folks. Next closest, I gave Bernie a B-, and that might have been generous given how bad his performance was. She proved that she's a great debater, as she was in 2008. She's a lot like Mitt Romney. She prepares carefully. She thinks about what she wants to say and how she wants to say it. And there wasn't anybody who came in last night with either the experience or the preparation that she had. Look, she could still stumble. I don't know if this is going to affect Bernie's numbers in Iowa or New Hampshire, but she had a lot on the line, and she performed brilliantly.
Look, she has a lot of flaws as a candidate. We agree. But she has some real strengths, and debating is one of them. There's no question about it. She's very good at this. And the thing of having gone through 16 debates or whatever it was with Obama, 15 or 16, 8 or 9 forums last time around, she's gotten to the point now where her preparation and her relentlessness and all of that stuff, which could be a problem for other candidates, could leave them being overly programmatic. She prepares and then puts it behind her, and it frees her to be the best version of herself on the debate stage.
I agree. Right. She was strong.
Perhaps some people may have been looking to see if Hillary Clinton would stumble last night, but it was the socialist septuagenarian, Bernie Sanders, who lost his footing. We'll discuss Sanders' performance at length later on the show, but for now, Mark, why do you think Bernie stumbled?
Debates are two parts, right? They're preparation and performance, and the first leads to the second. Senators don't think they need to prepare because they think, hey, I debate all day. That's what being a senator is about. He didn't prepare. He came in. She came after him aggressively in the beginning. I don't think he ever fully recovered. And if he doesn't prepare more for the next time, he's not a smart man.
You know, Sanders' people are all saying he won. I don't think there's anything that happened in this debate that will drive anybody away from him that was a Bernie supporter to begin with. But the point of these debates, the reason that he was supposed to be trying to introduce himself to the American people, presumably, was to try to expand his base of support, to broaden his appeal. And I didn't see a single moment last night where he did anything intentionally or unintentionally that would gain him any voters. That, to me, is a failure, and it speaks to not just a lack of preparation, but a lack of strategy.
And not just unprepared to combat Clinton when she came after him aggressively, but he smiled only twice by my count. He told no personal stories or no stories about average Americans he wants to help. He did his shtick, at times weakly, at times stronger, but he had a bad night.
I agree.
All right, even though CNN made it clear that Vice President Biden could show up at the last minute riding one of Siegfried and Roy's Tigers and still get in the debate, Biden didn't show. Our colleague Margaret Talib got a chance to ask the vice president today at the White House about what he thought about the debate after watching it from afar.
I was proud I thought they all did well, and you know, part of what has to be done, I say to all of you, part of what has to be done is we have to actually make the system work. You know, you got to make it work. You got to be able to be. And I thought every one of those folks last night, I thought they all did well.
Also today, Hillary Clinton's campaign chairman, John Podesta, told Andrea Mitchell on MSNBC that if Biden does want to enter the race, he's running out of time.
Well, look, I think he's been through a tremendous tragedy, and we've been respectful about that. And I think he deserved the space and the time to think that through about whether it was best for him to begin this new challenge to try to mount a presidential campaign. But I think the time has come for a decision.
Unmistakable signal from the top of the Clinton campaign. John, after last night, is there still room in this race for Diamond Joe Biden?
Mark, I think that the combination of Kevin McCarthy's comment, the undermining of the legitimacy of the Benghazi committee and the email inquiry, not total, but a lot of it, and then this performance by Hillary Clinton has made the terrain a lot tougher for Joe Biden. The other thing that's made it tougher was the way Hillary Clinton last night laid down the gauntlet and basically said, Joe, if you want to come in this race and try to be Barack Obama's inheritor, the inheritor of his legacy, I'm going to fight you for that. She pulled Obama close all night last night. You could see her sort of shadow boxing with him. I think she made it tougher for him.
He can still get in now. He could still get in February if Sanders beats her in Iowa and New Hampshire. But things are tougher for him now. The people in the party after last night are basically saying, we have our candidate. The establishment knows who we want to pick. First female candidate. I think Joe Biden, if he gets in, is going to have to give a huge, well-crafted speech explaining the rationale for his candidacy, not just, I'm here in case Hillary Clinton stumbles.
Yeah, absolutely right. All right, normally, candidates from the other party try to play it cool and claim they don't even watch the other side's debates. Last night, that was not the case. Frontrunner Donald Trump live tweeted throughout the whole thing, and even Mike Huckabee's tweets got a little bit of attention. Today, the Republican candidates continue to talk about what they thought of last night's showdown.
I think she did her job. I think she got through the debate. I personally thought she won the debate. I thought Bernie was off. He was not doing so well. I thought that the other people shouldn't even be up there, to be honest with you. I thought a couple of them were ridiculous.
She got bailed out by Bernie Sanders, who said, enough of that, got a big laugh, and then they moved on. What'd you make of that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they may not care about it, but the people in this country do, because it goes right to the issue of credibility. If you watched that debate last night, it looked like something from the early 80s. It was basically a liberal versus liberal debate about who was going to give away the most free stuff.
I thought it was interesting that they didn't go after her, particularly on the email issue. I would have taken her to task for that, and if she wins the nomination and I win the nomination, trust me, this is not going to end.
So that was the candidates. Then we had the consensus from the conservative media establishment, Fox News and the Wall Street Journal's editorial board, which basically came down on the side of the notion that Hillary may have won this debate, but only because there were no strong challengers on the stage. Let's take a listen to that.
The overarching message you took from the debate last night?
Hillary Clinton was going to be the nominee.
There was a clear winner, Hillary Clinton. It showed the weakness of the Democratic field. We had sort of a grumpy old dyspeptic Bilbo Baggins leading some British Labour Party left caucus meeting in Bernie Sanders, and then we had three midgets.
She darned well better at one. She was debating a 74-year-old independent socialist from Vermont and three guys who couldn't get a front page listing in a phone book.
She obviously performed well last night in a debate against a bunch of people that obviously are not up to the presidential level.
Can you imagine on the Republican stage with Donald Trump up by 20 points if nobody went after Donald Trump? We know that wasn't the case. You just have to wonder how committed the other four are to winning if they will not take on the leader.
Bernie doesn't care about the emails. Okay, so a lot of Democrats don't care about the emails, right? They just don't care. I think that's accurate. It goes to honesty.
All right, Mark, so summing this up, pretty much every Republican and even some non-Republican pundits believe that Hillary Clinton did indeed win the debate, but she did nothing to prove that she's a formidable general election candidate. Do you think they're right?
Look, Republicans are right that the other people on the stage were weak, and they're right that to some extent she got pulled to the left, but they're kidding themselves if they think last night was not scary for their prospects. Hillary Clinton, if she performs like this, will win Iowa, win New Hampshire, and be the nominee by the middle of February, the de facto nominee, and the Republicans could be fighting it out to the convention. That would make their chances of winning the White House go down substantially. They have to be worried or they're in denial.
Well, and not just that, Mark. I think on the specific point of debates, look at Hillary Clinton out there on that stage. She was debating, they're right, Bilbo Baggins and three midgets, as Karl Rove put it. But you look up at that Republican stage, who's been incredible on the Republican stage? There have been some good moments, but I wouldn't say that just in terms of pure debating skills, there's any Republican right now among the 16 candidates who's anywhere near as good as Hillary Clinton is.
Yep.
I think that one of them may be able to go at her in the fall, but they got to take her seriously as a debating opponent, in addition to more generally as a candidate.
Yep. And even though she wasn't one-on-one last night and she doesn't have much one-on-one presidential debate experience, she's getting honed. She's got experience. She can adapt. These guys are on a stage with 15 people and gal. It's going to be hard for anyone to emerge ready to take her on in critical debates. All right. When we come back, we're going to go deeper inside Bernie's very, very bad Vegas night after these words from our sponsors.
Last night was not Bernie Sanders' best. Mark, you reported that the Clinton campaign says they prepared big time for the debate, and viewers were able to see that pretty clearly. For Sanders, not so much. There were times when it showed. Let's take a look at one of the big moments last night where Clinton took off the gloves and got the upper hand on Sanders on the subject of capitalism.
We should look to countries like Denmark, like Sweden, and Norway, and learn from what they have accomplished for their working people.
You don't consider yourself a capitalist, though?
Do I consider myself part of the casino capitalist process by which so few have so much and so many have so little, by which Wall Street, greed and recklessness wreck this economy? No, I don't.
Anybody else on the stage who's not a capitalist?
Well, let me just follow up on that, Anderson, because when I think about capitalism, I think about all the small businesses that were started because we have the opportunity and the freedom in our country for people to do that and to make a good living for themselves and their families. And I don't think we should confuse what we have to do every so often in America, which is save capitalism from itself. And I think what Senator Sanders is saying certainly makes sense in the terms of the inequality that we have. But we are not Denmark. I love Denmark. We're the United States of America, and it's our job to rein in the excesses of capitalism so that it doesn't run amok and doesn't cause the kind of inequities that we're seeing in our economic system. But we would be making a grave mistake to turn our backs on what built the greatest middle class in the history of the world.
Senator Sanders?
Mark, I love Denmark too. But there's Hillary Clinton pushing Bernie Sanders way off to the left. My question for you, Dan Pfeiffer last night, from the former White House communications director, said, is Bernie Sanders actually a socialist? If he's not really a socialist and he's not really an independent, in fact, he's really deep down a capitalist and a Democrat, why does he keep clinging to these unpopular points of view that Hillary strung him up for?
It's like the Globetrotters versus the Washington Generals. There's a complete mismatch. He was supposed to be the titan on the stage with her. That's the way CNN built it up. And he was not the least bit prepared for something controversial he said 2 days ago. She didn't lift something out of his college thesis. The fact that he didn't prepare an answer to hit that thing out of the park was professional malpractice. And the big surprise of the night for me was she aggressively took him on early when the door was open to do it. And he wasn't ready.
Yeah, she did not hesitate at all. And anybody who thought that she was just going to kind of stay in her lane and leave Bernie alone learned last night that Hillary Clinton was wanting to make clear that she was going to be firing on all cylinders. The aggressiveness came through in a lot of different places, but that was certainly one of them. She was very effective, and it was right out of the gate. She really kind of set down a marker early on that this was going to be how she was going to conduct herself here.
And because he'd done no mock debates, you saw him standing there awkwardly. He had no idea how to get back and try to win the exchange. He lost that exchange, and I don't think he won a single confrontational exchange with her all night.
Right. Let's look at another exchange that I think we'll both agree that he lost. Clinton got in another hit shortly after that first one on one of the few subjects where she could carve out space to the left of Sanders, which is guns.
Do you want to shield gun companies from lawsuits or not?
Of course not. This was a large and complicated bill. There were provisions in it that I think made sense. For example, do I think that a gun shop in the state of Vermont that sells legally a gun to somebody, and that somebody goes out and does something crazy, that gun shop owner should be held responsible? I don't. On the other hand, where you have manufacturers and where you have gun shops knowingly giving guns to criminals or aiding and abetting that, of course we should take action.
Secretary Clinton, is Bernie Sanders tough enough on guns?
No. Not at all. I think that we have to look at the fact that we lose 90 people a day from gun violence. This has gone on too long, and it's time the entire country stood up against the NRA. The majority of our country supports background checks, and even the majority of gun owners do. Senator Sanders did vote 5 times against the Brady bill. Since it was passed, more than 2 million prohibited purchases have been prevented. He also did vote, as he said, for this immunity provision. I voted against it. I was in the Senate at the same time. It wasn't that complicated to me. It was pretty straightforward to me that he was going to give immunity to the only industry in America. Everybody else has to be accountable, but not the gun manufacturers.
So, Mark, here's Bernie Sanders. Apparently has gotten used to just giving speeches to big crowds and not being challenged on anything, because he not only was unprepared, as we've made the point previously, but here, in defending his position on guns, which he knows is unpopular with the Democratic base, he sounded like something worse than a conservative. He sounded like a senator. The bill was complicated. There were a lot of good parts. There were a lot of bad parts. Hillary Clinton cutting straight through the clutter and saying, not complicated at all. You're just wrong on this.
And he also said repeatedly, well, I'm from a rural state, so things are different. Again, he's got an unpopular position within the party right now. Her position, her rhetoric's more popular. The fact that he didn't think through, practice, and execute an answer on, after the capitalist thing, probably the second most obvious vulnerability is, I'll say again, professional malpractice. And again, you look at his demeanor. She is in command and in control. He's standing there in the 2-shot looking pained and confused and unprincipled in the eyes of a lot of Democratic activists.
Yeah, I mean, look, he looked, as you say, he looked kind of a combination all night last night of sort of exasperated, sheepish, kind of back on his heels. But I'll say again, you know, he's supposed to be the outsider candidate, the anti-establishment candidate. Last night
and the
he sounded
straight
like
talker.
Right, and the straight talker. And last night he sounded all too often like the classic Washington senator trying to make excuses for why he voted this way on a bill or didn't vote that way on another bill.
Doublespeak. And look,
yes,
he wants to be president. He needs to convince people he's a national candidate and he's someone who's principled and can be elected. That exchange didn't prove any of that. It proved just the opposite. All right, when we come back, one of the top political journalists in all of the United States of America, our good friend Jonathan Martin of the New York Times, will join us after this. Joining us now from Vegas, Jonathan Martin, our friend from the New York Times. Jonathan, you've got a story up now on the paper website about how Hillary Clinton's performance might have chilled the Biden movement and the Biden moment. How much did last night's debate really change Biden's chances of getting in, do you think?
Well, look, if you talk to folks who know Joe Biden, they say he's going to do this regardless because that's just who he is. But look, the fact is, if you watched that debate last night and you're a friend or an advisor of Joe Biden, then you've got to be candid with him and say it's not clear what the ideological space for you is in this primary. And furthermore, if the calculation was that Hillary Clinton is a wounded candidate, well, you got to reassess that view in light of her performance last night, which was commanding by any measure. And now the only sort of opening, it seems like, is if there is some future revelation about her email usage that we haven't seen yet that could be far more damning than what we know as of now.
Jonathan, Hillary's got her Benghazi hearing a little more than a week from now, next Thursday. That was always going to be a high-stakes opportunity for her, a high-stakes event for her. But given what's happened over the last 2 weeks, and then given the context of this debate, does she now have a chance next Thursday to basically slam the door shut politically on her email troubles?
I mean, if not slam it shut, at least put it pretty darn, close to the hinges. I mean, it's a great opportunity for her on the heels of what Kevin McCarthy said. Her performance last night, if she turns in a solid performance on the Hill next week, right before the first filing deadline, guys, comes up in the Democratic primary, then she's going to really enhance her prospects. Again, we don't know what the FBI investigation is going to yield, so we can't get too far down the road. But if we assume that the current facts that we know right now are the extent of her troubles on the emails, then I think the combination of those three events, the McCarthy comments, her performance last night, and if she has a strong performance next week, that could really put her in a strong position to, secure her place as the unambiguous Democratic frontrunner.
Yeah, all right, let's talk a little Republicans. Another day, two familiar Trump phenomenons. Polls in South Carolina, Nevada show him way ahead. He did 3, at least, long television interviews. But something new in Trump world. Ivanka, at an event in Washington, D.C., spoke on camera about her dad.
Are you happy that your father is running for president?
That's a complicated question. Happy is an interesting word. I'm incredibly proud of him. It's a very difficult thing to do. And I see now just how difficult it is, and he's achieved tremendous success. Was not a politician. He is not a politician. But he's really changing the dialogue.
Jonathan, a little news I picked up the other day. Ivanka is expecting a baby due right around the Iowa caucuses. How formidable will she be, do you think, as a surrogate between now and Iowa for her dad?
Well, it depends how much she wants to do, but the comments that you heard right there are so stark to me because they are a departure from the sort of Trump brand that we know. I mean, she sounds like a really sort of poised, smart, capable person. So she could be an asset. It depends how much Trump wants to put her out there. So much of the campaign is what he wants to do. It's his whims. It's his instincts. If they put her out there more, it could put more of a human face on the sort of Trump phenomenon. But again, it's a question of how much does he want to sort of turn over control of the campaign from his Twitter account and from his, every thought.
I think she's going to be extraordinarily strong for him.
But how often is she going out there? Yeah. John?
Real quick, yesterday we saw Carly Fiorina, $6.8 million raised in the third quarter. It's a little more than Marco Rubio raised. Among those two candidates right now who both are playing a hot hand, who do you think is playing the hotter hand, Fiorina or Rubio?
I think in terms of the elite folks in the party, that there's no question that it's Rubio. But as far as rank and file voters, you hear a lot of talk about Fiorina. And there's an assumption among folks in the party, elites in the party, that at some point the HP oppo will take hold or people will sort of just get over the fact that she can't be president. But it's October, guys, and you hear in her name more and more.
Yep, I agree. Jonathan, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. Enjoy Vegas, and we'll be right back.
Thanks, fellas.
For more of our insights into last night's debate, head on over to BloombergPolitics.com.
We're on twice a day at 5 and at 8. Until tomorrow, we'll see you back in New York. Sayonara.